See you all, great turnout. Thank you for coming for the Dumoulin family and their family presentation today. Significant part of Hampshire, significant part of the farming community for decades. Welcome, thank you for agreeing to do this and educate us all on the Dumoulin family and farming in Hampshire. My name's Bill Swall. I'm serving as the president of the Hampshire Township Historical Society. I'm on year 2. Taking over after Bonnie Engel, who has done a wonderful job and still does. I wanted to mention just a few activities and fundraising efforts that we're undergoing right now to raise some money for an eventual museum to house everything Hampshire, of which we've got a number of families to make donations of photographs and letters, numerous items Hampshire related, and we'd love to put those eventually on display for everyone. And in time, I'm sure that will happen. But we've got a few books up here and publications for sale. If you're interested in Hampshire and Hampshire history, a lot of people have already seen this book. In fact, the Dumoulin family is prominently mentioned in this book. And then this is a Kane County publication, all about farming in the county of Kane. It covers all the different townships. These are for sale as well. And lastly, I wanted to mention our most recent fundraising, which our fundraising chairman, Mike Byan, is doing a fantastic job with. The Historical Society has purchased a low-speed vehicle. It's an electric vehicle that is street legal in Illinois. You can drive this on the street right now. These tickets are for sale for $50 a piece, and the drawing is April 27th. 5th? Yeah. I was close. April 25th. This is on display up at James Motors, if anyone wants to go see it. I was in there today. It is a large vehicle, 6 passengers, so anyone that's interested in those, just let us know. We've got some postcards up here, historical Hampshire postcards that have been duplicated. Those are for sale as well. If you're interested in taking some Hampshire history with you tonight, there it is. So, I think that's everything I had up here. Oh, yes. And I know you folks all know this, there's costs associated with these types of programs, from printing the flyers to mailing the flyers, distributing them, as well as renting of the hall space. Any donations, a few dollars on your way out would be much appreciated. Would go a long way. So, with that being said, I think that's everything I had. I'll turn it over to Bonnie Engel to do our introductions. Thank you.
Forgive my back, but for the camera purposes, I'm standing in front of you. As some of you know, we are live streaming our programs now, in addition to recording them digitally, to have all of this interesting history available at any time. As you know, our program this evening is all about the Dumoulin family and successful farming in the township. Really, you could talk to any number of people in this community, and they would tell you some wonderful stories about the kindness and goodness of the Dumoulin family. And like many of our families, this is so true. And the roots of this family run wide and deep, as do many of our founding families in this community of Hampshire. So we really want to record and acknowledge and thank the families and their legacy that is here. And so our presenters this evening are Pat Dumoulin, her son Patrick, and Mike. And we are most appreciative of your time with us.
Well, my goodness sakes, as I look out, I can hardly believe that I have been here over 70 years. 70 years. I must have been a child when I came. But I came from an Irish community, came over here to Hampshire to a very strong German community, and the first few years, I think I put the German community in St. Charles Borromeo on their ear. This Irishman didn't always do the protocol that good, solid Germans do. But we seem to have meshed pretty well, and over the years have developed very good, long friendships. And I'm delighted to be here tonight. So, to start off, as I said, I was born and raised over in DeKalb County on a farm. And from the time I was this big, I was sure that I was only going to marry a farmer. So as I dated young men, when I went on to college, if you weren't a farmer, you weren't going to get a check mark. That's all there was to it. And so I met Bill's sister, Jerry, working at DeKalb Ag. And we became friends, and she had a cousin, Jerry Herman, and she thought that he and I would go well together, so I started dating him. And then Bill, on his 23rd birthday, now I was 17, a very sophisticated college. And I remember being in the kitchen, and I came through the door, and Bill said to me, he said, Patty, he said, my birthday is coming up. He said, would you like to go dancing with me? And I, with all my sophistication, said, who, me? You want me to go dancing with you? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I got to ask my mom and dad, because back then you had to ask your mom and dad, didn't you? And so they said, absolutely yes. And they really knew that I was in love with him before I knew it. And people say to me, well, how did you know you were in love? And I said, because my mom told me. And that's kind of the truth. They would say to me, don't you blow it, Patty. Don't you blow it. And I'm thinking, 17, I wasn't thinking of getting married at all. I'd come from an all-girls high school, went to Northern, the only woman in the College of Business. Do you think I was looking for one guy? Not on your life. But I am certainly glad that he proposed one evening, and here we are today. In all my dreams, I never ever dreamt anything like this would ever occur. I never thought that we would come from our little farm to, you want to move it on, to such a large portion of the community. And so hopefully the generations that come after will continue the legacy that my husband's family started. So that takes care of, I have, 20 grandchildren, and we have 7 of them married. Did 4 last summer, which I would not suggest that to anybody. So we have 1 coming up this year. So we're down on the weddings, but we got 4 babies coming. So it's like, well, weddings, babies, next year will be weddings again. And so we'll continue on. So let's go on there and see. There's Grandpa, there in the middle, and he passed away in 2014. And I had 60 years, and if I ever felt bad or anything like that, God ought to spank me, because I had 60 really great years. I always tell people, if that man was ever upset with me, and I know you're going to not believe me, I never knew it. Did he know when I was upset with him? That you bottom dollar. And that was the Irish coming out in that. There is our farm a long, long time ago. I remember we put up the silos. At that time we were feeding cattle. And of course back then nobody had pigs specialized. They ran behind the cattle to be able to get the corn out of the manure. That's what you had pigs for. And so we put up 2 silos, and remember my husband saying they will be either monuments to my success or monuments to my stupidity. And there were years when it was stupidity and years when it was success. And so far we've been able to hang on by our teeth, and which farmers do. What they say, asset rich and income poor, and that's very, very, very true. I've never been able to take a bushel basket of dirt into blocks and get anything for it. So, there you'll see that the farm has grown a little bit. Not only that farm, but the house, but you can see, I better put my glasses on so I don't think that helps. There was the first renovation on the farm, and we started out with, I believe, 250 sows, which at that time, is that right? Yeah, right, Bred gilt. A gilt is a mom that's never been a mom yet. She's gonna have her first litter. And then once you have baby pigs, then you become a sow. So, kind of like a young lady and a mom. That's what the gilt and the sow is all about. And so we started out with 250 gilts, which we thought was a humongous amount. We renovated the barn there. And I can remember Bill going down to Farm and Fleet and picking out different things because he remodeled the inside of it. And we were going to have where the cow gutters were, because that was a dairy barn. We never dairied, but that was a dairy barn. They filled that in and made a slope of 1 inch from one end of that barn to the other, just an inch slope. And they said the manure would then flow. And my husband thought, an inch, it'll just never, but it did. But it doesn't take much, I guess, to do it. And then, what does the other one say?
The corn bean rotate.
Oh, if you'll notice that the field there to the right of, as I look at the picture to the right, it looks like it's stripped, and it was. That was soybeans, and then rows of corn, and soybeans, and rows of corn. That was a new practice that came out, so we thought we'd give it a try. And of course, if you notice in a cornfield, the outside rows are the ones that are always the biggest and the best ears because they get the most sunlight. So that was the thought behind the corn and beans and corn and beans. So I can't remember how long we did that, and I don't remember why we quit. But,
enough to buy equipment for it, and then with the pigs, we got bigger with the pigs, and we had to inject the manure, and you always had to take out the rows, which you built up all summer long because you cultivated, for older people that might know what that is, and you would build up the ridges. And that was weed control, and you built up the ridges because in the summertime, in the spring, the rows would warm up quicker so that you could plant sooner. And the earlier you get your crops in, the better they do. And if even to this day, everybody's always pushing the envelope on trying to get their corn and soybeans started because once they do, the yields are much better. And we kind of do it a little backwards now. There's a lot of people that want to plant soybeans first. We always planted corn first, and then soybeans, because soybeans were kind of, that was a necessary evil. But now soybeans are, the yields are much better, and so now corn is still the #1 crop. It still produces the most money, but soybeans are getting up there where, they're very competitive, and you need the soybeans to help break up the ground.
And there was the Dumoulin Farms in 1998. And at that time, we had gone into the meat business. And Mama Leone's down by Burlington, they were friends of ours and looked like they were doing well, and so we decided to go into the meat business. The problem with what we had hogs, and there is a garbage law in the state of Illinois that says that if you have hogs on the farm that would theoretically eat anything, that we could not have raw meat brought in, frozen meat, and mink eat meat. And so Mama Leone's could get meat from like Kentucky Fried Chicken and come in frozen because it wouldn't eat the specks, and then they grind that up in a grinder that I could get lost in. And we had to use dry feed. And the mink don't do nearly as well on the dry pedal as they do on it. So we did mink for
20 years.
Yeah, it took us a long time before we decided that. And mink are mean little son of a guns. Their teeth are concave, so that when they bite you, they go into your skin and you don't want to pull them, because then you rip your nose off, and that's where they got it usually. And so you would drop to the ground right away, and as soon as they hit the ground, they let you go by themselves. But if you tried to help them, you were not going to be in a very good shape. So, and the female mink, they have a lot of headaches when the male comes around. They are not very anxious to greet the male. And they are strong and they fight. And the mink were pretty interesting. So, all right, in 2005, what is that, the compost? That was, we went into composting. I want you to know we still have pigs all the time. We're dabbling here and there. And you can see where we added a nursery, and we added some to the farmhouse, and then we had this compost operation where we took in waste from the surrounding villages or Elgin, and they'd bring their waste out, leaves and grass and that kind of stuff. And sometimes shopping carts, you cannot imagine what would get thrown into that compost. And then we had a grinder that ground that up, and we then sold mulch and compost. Compost is black gold. It's wonderful stuff. We just don't seem to be able to get a good sale on it here in the United States, but it's wonderful stuff for your yard. It does produce weeds, however, so you got to weed if you use it, but it's very good, very good.
The biggest reason we started with the composting though was to get rid of phytase that was building up on our ground from our pig feed. Phosphorus, yeah, thanks. So the phosphorus kept building up, so you get your phosphorus levels will start getting higher, and they don't want to get, like right now they have regulations out, so they don't want any more than 300 units of phosphorus per acre. Well, because back then, the feed of the pigs, you'd have to add a bunch of dicalcium phosphate, and that did not digest very well with the pigs. So you'd have to overfeed the pig so that he could digest enough phosphate to make him grow. Well, everything that the pig didn't use, of course, he just put back in the manure. So then we go on out there and spread that manure on the ground, and our phosphorus levels kept building up. So that's why we started looking into composting, because we ended up putting, many years, we put about 1 million gallons of manure on that compost. And compost, in order to get that to break down, it's carbon and nitrogen. Well, pig manure's got a bunch of nitrogen in it, and grass and leaves, and that's where your carbon comes in. So it's very easy for us to make compost once we had a stream of yard waste coming in. So that's why we started off with started doing our compost, so that we could not over-fertilize our ground with the phosphorus. But then about 2 years after we spent a ton of money, because of course everything was going so great, right, with our composting, they came out with a feed ingredient called phytase. And the phytase dropped your phosphorus, your phosphate down to just exactly what the pig needed to utilize for him to grow. So you didn't have all that phosphorus being dumped out on the ground. So that and a few other things, and kids absolutely love, so quick little story, kids started driving truck in our place at about, what, Pat, 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that, very, very young, because we needed people to move the trucks out to dump the compost. Well, Pat was the oldest guy, so of course Pat was, he got involved with teaching the other kids. So the other kids would they'd get like 2 turns to back up the truck and trailer into the compost rows so they could dump it, because we were running 2 trucks. So if the other truck we were swapping it out, so they'd have to dump it, come back, so Pat would jump in another truck with another kid, drive out there and back up, and you can't believe it, Pat is an extremely good teacher. He's extremely good. So he got to teach a lot of the kids how to drive trucks. So it was a very good plus. I can tell you right now, the girls in their internships or their odd jobs that they get into, that backing up a trailer was extremely useful. And of course, nobody could believe that a 17-year-old girl could back up a truck and trailer and not have any trouble. Well, they did that because Pat did such a great job in teaching them. And of course, the dads, of course, they were always extremely polite and nice. And, where's that truck at? Something like that. So Pat was under a great deal of pressure, but it worked out really well.
So Tetmans know how to drive trucks early too.
Yes, yes they do. Yes,
Okay. Is that the 210. So what's, the guilt, we had now,
Guild developer, we had to put an addition on there.
because we now had gone up to how many sows, guilts?
So we started off at 250 gilts, then we went to 500 sows, then we went to 1,200 sows. And that's when we added that guild developer, when we got to 1,200 sows. Because then, of course, we could, and that we also worked with Illini. And so what we did was we would raise breeding stock for Illini. So, and anything that we didn't sell to Illini as bred gilts, or as open gilts, we would just sell to the packing houses that we were already selling to with our other pigs. So, but that guild developer then, farming changes daily. It truly does, and that's why we try so many different things, because it all makes sense. You know, get the phosphorus off the ground, you put it in compost, and you can sell that compost, and other people can use it. I mean, you truly do things because it makes sense, and it just flows. And so,
things change.
Yeah, yes, yeah, almost by the minute. So.
Dumoulin Farms, 2015, we added a storage shed. And I think, is that the one next to the house?
Oh,
That's okay.
Yeah, that's out in the back. And half of that is warm storage. We fix the trucks and things out there. And half of it is cold storage and you never have enough room. You never have enough room. They are in there like a woman fills her china cabinet just to get everything in that. Dumoulin Farms in 2020. Wean to finish. We finally got rid of our sows and bought into what they call, again, a new innovation in the hogging industry, and what they call them sow centers. And so different producers will own so many sows in these sow centers, and that's all the sow center does, is produce baby pigs. And so we get in about 10,000 baby pigs every 6.5 weeks, about 6.5 weeks. Just as a little tidbit to show you what putting weight on does. Those little piglets come into our farm weighing about 18 pounds. And they're 23 days old, right in that area. And it takes 6 semis to bring them into the farm, to get those little baby pigs to our farm. They stay on our farm. We bring them up to about 50 pounds, which you call a feeder pig. And we move those pigs then off of our farm onto what we call our finishing sites. And we have finishing sites around the area, and you'll see Dumoulin feed trucks going all the time, bringing feed. It takes,
west.
Right. It takes 20 semis to move those 10,000 50-pound pigs off site. And then they stay there till they weigh on average about 270, 280, right in there, making your bacon and pork chops and all that good stuff. And it now takes 63 semis to move those pigs to market. So if you sit down every day at that table, pay attention to what you put in your mouth, because a lot of it will stay there. So anyway, okay. And here we are in 2024. And we've added a lot of stuff by then. And probably our newest thing is our new mill that we've been putting up. We felt so smart. We bought a 156,000 bushel bin in December before COVID came out. Thinking we were, and by the next year, January, February, steel prices have gone up. So we were just practically breaking our arm on how smart we were. And then COVID broke out. And what a mess that caused us, and the money that it caused us to build this this feed setup that we are still working on today. So as I come down the road and I see the legs up there and all the bins, I just see alligators hanging all over them. Oh my God. Yeah, very, very, but we have a very, very good feed bin set up, and we do about 600 tons of feed a week is what we're growing. So it keeps everybody busy, and you know, with all that mechanical stuff going, you know what happens. The highest lake is 165 feet, and 3 days ago, Monday, when it was, you know how cold it was, just before it turned nice? Well, they were up on the top, Pat Buddy was up on the top, working on that most of the day. And up there, I guess it was a little breezy too. You get that far off the ground. So agriculture is technology. And as Pat said, it changes all the time. And every time it changes, there's a big dollar bill that goes with it. As any of you know, just take a look at your little phone. Whoever thought you would spend $1,000 on a phone that you put in your pocket? When that little old black phone back in the Ma Bell days, remember? Anybody here remember that kind of a phone? I believe the bill was maybe, what, $40? And you didn't own the phone. You didn't own the phone. Now they've convinced us that for $1,000 we're lucky we can. I said to him one day when I was getting a phone, I said, you know, I want a phone. He said, I'm sorry, all I can sell you is a computer. And that's really what you're buying. So we have GPS, sit in that tractor, and it just drives itself. And we get to the end of the row and we have to turn it. Put GPS out today, and the machines will turn itself. You go around the edge of the field, what do you call that?
When we spray?
No, when you make it so that the GPS will work.
Outline.
Yeah. Tell them about that.
I'll let Pat talk, he's got the mic, so.
He does all of the field. He'll do the planting and the combining. Pat does the spraying.
So on our planter, Mom talked about how the GPS works, and it's truly remarkable. You set up A/B lines, which a starting point is A, and then the end point is B. Okay, so that's called an A/B line. So from there, on the planter, we can.
There's the planter. Bring it down.
Obviously, the one on the 6 row, we didn't have it for that, but.
That is what we started out with, a 6-row planter. Then we went to a 12, and then a 24, and now a 36. And I usually spend a lot of time out in the fields when we're planting and harvesting. I just love to be out there. So, and we've got a buddy seat, which is comfortable. I used to sit on a tin can or but now I have a buddy seat.
It was a lot easier to get a yes out of her when she was sitting on that tin can. Buddy seat, you know, hey Mom, I got an idea. No. Of course, we've learned not to start that conversation off. Hey Mom, we got an idea. Nope. This is going to cost me money. Nope.
So anyway, I just wanted you to see the planter. And to watch that fold up is very impressive.
So with the technology that we have on that tractor, it does drive by itself, and you can see the monitors on there. I think the one on the right there is the ones that we have right now. Those monitors are like $5,000 a piece, but what they do. And they tell about it tells about the soil condition, tells organic matter, tells the moisture. So if it's supposed to be like at 30% moisture in the row, in the furrow, and if it is less, then you want to put your seed down deeper. And of course, they have technology that will automatically adjust it. We do not have that technology right now. We have to do it manually. So we set it up, you know, so.
Hey Mom, I got an idea.
So right now we set it up so it probably plants between like around 35% moisture, furrow moisture. Then on each individual row, they all have electric clutches. So they are controlled individually. Mom talked about, we plant the outside of the field first, so we do the headlands. And when you get to the end, the rows will shut off. When you have a square field, it's not that big of a deal. And I think on every field that we have, or 98%, we're lucky enough to have a creek in it. So we have point rows on all those fields. So when the planter gets to the end, the rows will shut off individually. So when it gets to that point, when that very last row there, the rows just shut off as you go on down there. And the reason why that's a big deal is because if you double plant the corn, then the corn falls down at harvest time. It stays standing straight the whole time until you get to harvest it, and it falls down. Then you have to go really slow, and it's very, very time consuming and very stressful. So, and obviously you can control the rows if you want to shut them off. And then again, once you start into the field, you set the planter down before you get into the field. So you're setting it down in the headlands, and once you get into an area that's not planted, they kick on automatically. And you never can see it on the planter, but when Pat and the boys are spraying with the floaters, they'll make a corner, and sometimes they don't get straight, you know, head on with that, and you can hear the air shut off. They go and kick on, and it's pretty cool to watch that. What else does it do? It tells on singulation, so if you're putting one kernel in at a time, it lets you know if you plant doubles or if there's a skip. There's just about a billion things, and we don't have everything that it can do.
The doubles are really important because that extra kernel there, that's really a weed, because it takes away from that single kernel that you have. So what you really want to do is you want to look down the rows, and you just want every single one of them just look like somebody individually planted them at 3.5 inches apart. And that's what so us silly farmers, as we drive alongside the countryside there, you never guess what we do. We look at other people, how they plant their corn and what their weeds are. Because that's super interesting to us, because it lets you know that you either have the technology and about, I'm just guessing, but probably 80% of the farmers now, if you look at when the corn's just starting coming up, if you'll see that there's extra rows in the headland, then you know he doesn't have automatic shutoffs. Just about everybody has automatic shutoffs now. So what truly is amazing is that farmers can afford it. I mean, that truly is amazing, because because let me tell you, nobody gets rich farming. No, nobody does. You know, but it is truly it gets in your blood. You can't do anything about it. You just love to do it, and that's why you got farmers. You know, so.
Let's see. There's our feed mill that I had talked about, and that's all automatic inside. They run it by computer. In fact, Tommy is the one that causes us all kinds of problems out there.
Again, what's so amazing on that is we were a beta site for this company. So what this company used to do is they would mix cement, and so they'd grab some ingredients from over this bin, grab some ingredients from this bin, and that's how they came up with our feed mill setup, because we got 16 different micros we put in there. We've got probably 5 different mains that we put in there, and then and each one it's all run off that computer. We can run it off a computer, we can run it off a phone, and we've been able to do that ever since we got that, and that's probably been 20 years ago. You know, I mean, it's just. So when Dad wasn't feeling so good, he was in the hospital, we'd be down seeing Dad, and we could grind feed from Dad's hospital room, which was really nice, because then we got to spend more time with Dad. So it was really cool, and you looked at it and go, how in the world can we afford this? But I mean, it truly was, it is amazing that the technology out there, look at your phones, right? I mean, everybody can afford this technology now, which is truly unbelievable, because the stuff that it does is amazing. Just amazing.
So, okay, processing. There's the beginnings and the buildup of the feed mill and the grinding operation. And there in the middle is 2 years ago, the kids for Christmas gave us crosses to put up on the top of that. And you can see it from Hampshire. You can't tell what it is. We didn't realize how big you needed something to be able to see it very well. But you can't see the light out there. We had a gentleman go by on a motorcycle. Went by, came back and said, I just wanted you to know that we appreciate the cross up there, which was that was kind of cool. And that was some of the bins they bring in, and so it's pretty exciting and very costly. Robotics, of course, have come in. This is drone pictures. We have a drone, thanks to Tricia, who works for Burns and Mac and Burns and Burns and Mac. And he's an engineer, and they had a drone that they got rid of, and so we bought it. And the drone is watching Mike plow. We try to plow one farm every year. Plowing is, we call it reverse tillage today. We don't call it plowing, but that's what it is. And it's kind of frowned on because of erosion, but soil needs to be ripped up sometime, once in a while, to get that air, to get that earth and turf back into it. So there's the 7 bottom.
Yeah.
7 bottom plow. I learned to plow with 2 bottoms. With 2 bottoms. Yeah. So that's just the drone taking pictures of it. Okay, go ahead. Now there's the sprayer, and that's what Pat runs. That's got, what, 120-foot booms on it, so, and you go like a bat out of heck. And they swing around and off we go again, and it's not air right, I will tell you that. And you hang on for dear life, even on the buddy seat. So, and that's a drone taking a picture of Pat spraying.
This is kind of interesting too, because this has a lot of technology in it also. So it's got the shutoffs. So once you go around the field, you paint that field on the outside, and then you just start. Then you blow and go, and I'm telling you, go, because it shuts off as you come up to the point rows. I mean, there's 7 sections on that 120-foot boom. And it just goes.
It's really cool.
It is truly amazing. And then you swing around, you grab another 120-foot going the other way, and you hear it just individually start coming again. But like I said, there's 7 different sections on that. We use this for once the crop gets up, and we'll spray our post-emergence. So after the crop gets up, we'll spray fungicide. We'll spray.
Which that's what it's doing right there.
Right, it's spraying fungicide right now. We'll also come on in, and we'll also use that sprayer for side dressing for 32 on there. So it's used quite a bit. We didn't always have that piece of equipment. We got that probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been a real. It's one of those ideas. Hey, Mom, I got an idea. This was one of them. So
that was a used sprayer. A used sprayer we bought down the southern part of the state for $200,000. A used sprayer. And that year, which we had this a couple years now.
probably
4 years. They had sold 96 brand new sprayers, these 2 salesmen in the state of Illinois, at $600,000 apiece. Yeah, this young lady, her mouth just fell, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and here's the combine, again, this is, I think, Mouse is the one who's running the drone. Weren't you the one that took these?
In the grain cart.
And the grain cart. Yeah. So that's the combine going through, breaking out a new land, right? And that's pretty interesting, just sit in there and watch that 12 rows at a time just going through at 250 bushels yields. So you know it's just chomping through stuff. And there's a lot of refuge that's left, you know, on the fields. So pretty, chops it, takes a cob, breaks that up, spits it back out in the field, puts the corn in the bin, and then, when that gets filled, then Mouse comes along with the grain cart, and, that big auger swings out, and on the go, he drives the grain cart, and Mike just keeps picking corn.
Back before we had the kids helping us as much as they do now, actually Mom used to run the cart, so.
Right, and I discovered, I was sat on some boards, and I discovered that the women, if they helped out in the field, ran the combine. So I came home and I said to my husband, I said, Bill, I said, I'm talking to all these guys down there, and I said, all the women run the combine. I said, how come I'm running the grain cart? The grain cart is not easy to run, and is when I have to pull up alongside that semi to unload, and I have to back it up sometimes and I'm not very good at that. It made me really nervous. And I'm thinking, how come I got stuck with this? And he said, because you can do it.
So just a quick little story on this also, thanks to Mom on helping out with the grain cart. So we'd be out there and we'd carry walkie-talkies along with us, okay? And so, because it's really nice, you grab a hold of the radio and say, hey Mike, I need this, or hey Pat, I need this, or whatever it is. And so we would start off and we'd have a fresh battery, fully charged battery. At the end of the day, it would be beeping telling us, because Mom was always on the radio, where do you want me, Bill? Where do you want me, Bill? It's like 12 rolls over from the last time, Mom. I can answer that for you right now.
Grandma, she doesn't tell you the whole story. You might want to keep that over there. But Grandma always had reading material and always had chips and caramel corn, thanks to my wife.
She got a little distracted.
Yeah. So, hence, where do you want me, Bill? Everybody on the farm knew 12 rolls over from the last time. So.
That's an enhancement. Not completely. So, community involvement and also in the agriculture, and I guess that's why it kind of speaks for itself. It's very easy to be involved in a community like Hampshire. It really is. You know, people say to me, you've got a great family, blah, 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 and I'm thinking, so do lots of other people. I said, your kitchen and my kitchen are exactly the same. We have our ups and our downs and our ins and outs, and just like all of us do. And as my mom would say, just remember, your feet are made of clay, meaning that we're very human, which she reminded me all the time. So, anyway, probably one of the neatest things we did, Prairie Farmer came out and just did an article on us, and that was when the kids were, they called that, see them in the golf cart, they called that a gaggle of grandchildren. And I believe we were maybe halfway through the grandchildren. Little did we know how many more were coming. But anyway, go back to that, the Prairie Farmer there. Just before the guy went to leave, he said goodbye to everything, and he turned around, and Pat had brought a baby pig out for the kids, and he took that picture. And he said, when he saw it, he said, I knew that had to be the cover. So it wasn't a planned thing at all, it was just a, you know, so, okie doke. Common farming practices, you can read there, but right now record keeping, it's income tax time, isn't it? Taxes on a farm are, yeah, just a big deal. And right now my attitude gets kind of swatted around every day when I go into that office. Tax time is just like for any business, is very stressful. And if we ever get a audit, I just pray to God that they never, ever find Dumoulin Farms. Because, you know, you try to, I'm sure I've done things wrong. You know, I'm sure I've missed something or put too much someplace, I just know it. And of course, they'll come in and I'm sure they'll want to know something that happened 5 years ago. I barely can remember what happened 2 days ago. You want 5 years. So, and always, when we've had insurance audits come in, they always ask you, I swear it, that one invoice that you cannot find. I mean, it's $6.80 and I can't find it. So, there pretty well tells that. Other common fact, agriculture is very much involved in politics, and it's very important. We have maybe 2 that were elected this last election that have any farming background at all on the Ag Committee. Can you believe that? And so it's probably a number of years ago, down in Assumption, we had brought out Illinois Corn, I was on the board at the time, brought out a group of EPA lawyers from Washington, D.C., so that you could see, they could see what, at that time, they were wanting to regulate the amount of dust that corn people, when they went, in the harvest time, when you went up and down the roads, on gravel roads, going to regulate the amount of dust that you could. So we thought maybe we ought to get them out here to kind of see that that might be beyond what we could do. So we had a bunch of attorneys from EPA come out. And I was there, and they were talking about how we lease ground, or run it on shares, or pay cash rent. And one of the attorneys turned to me and said, do people lease ground out here? And I said, yes, they do. He said, do other states do that too? I mean, and they are making the regulations and don't even know how we farm. On the money end of it, don't nothing about out in the field. So it's extremely important that when you belong to Illinois Corn or farmers or Illinois soybean, that those organizations, or pork or cattle, they represent you in Washington, D.C., because the people there really, it would be like me going into a physicist and saying, you know, I'm going to regulate. I don't know the front end from the back end of what they do, but I'm supposed to be able to lay down laws for them. And we even find time to go on vacation occasionally. And there's, look at that. Would you recognize those boys?
Oh, Grandma.
I didn't mean to use that. Yeah.
I gotta wait for it again.
We must have been really young then.
Yeah. Our 2 sons and Bill, our son-in-law, who also farms with us.
It was about 40 pounds ago.
And there we are today. So I didn't even ask how long. I should have asked, I get windy, and so I can talk for a long, long time. Having taught at the college for 30-some years, talking has never been a problem for me. And there's the cross up on the top, and you have been an extremely attentive audience. And it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this community.
They say it takes a village to raise a family. My brother and I know exactly what that is. That's you guys. You know, I look in here and I see so many familiar faces, and truly brings tears to my eyes. It really does. What a great community, what a great bunch of people, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of it.
Very humbling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
We can talk more about Mom and the grain cart.
When's the X9 coming?
So you talked about how you were going through the spraying and everything?
Yes.
And your mom was with you then?
Yes.
Now, so were you going faster when she was there trying to throw her off?
That's usually when you see her clenched up, that's, hey mom, I got an idea. Yeah.
And,
No,
and Patty, when you went across the pond, did you talk about, did you deal with the pig situation or the soybean situation, or how did
It
that all
depended
go?
upon, I sat on the soybean board, so when I went overseas, when we talked to different governments on selling our beans across the pond, and then when I was on corn, we did the same thing. Yeah. I have been very fortunate. My husband and I both have sat on the Illinois Soybean Association, and I sat on the corn board. So between us, we had at least 24 years when there was a Dumoulin on the Illinois Soybean board. And when he was on, I was on corn, and we traveled all over the world. Who felt just a little old dumb Irish farmer from DeKalb, Illinois, would get to see the things and be a part of the things that God has blessed me with. That's just.
And the pigs, they never got involved getting shipped over to China, or?
Interesting enough, I have never sat on the pork board. I've been with corn and beans all the time. I don't even know how that happened, but started many years ago. And my husband we were talking to one of the young boys, Y-O-U-N-G, not young age, but their last name, and he was terming off a soybean, and he said to Bill, "You ought to run," and my Bill, no, but Grandma said, "Oh, yes." And so with his feet dug in, I pushed him, and he was elected and served 6 years, which is all you can, or could then at that time. And so when he was off, I had gone with him to all the meetings, and, I enjoyed that, and I thought, you know what? So I ran and was elected, and then I served 6 years, and then he ran again and served 6 years, and then I ran again and served 6 years. So we had, in the meantime, I was on and off the corn board too. So.
The funny thing is, Mom always went with Dad, but Dad was never able to go with Mom.
I don't know why I bought the boards here.